Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about socionics quadras. This is an important concept in socionics, and it is, I think, one of the more unique ones. This is not really something that you find an analogy to in other, Myers-Briggs or other Jungian personality type systems. So in socionics, we have 16 types, and quadras, it divides them into four groups of four types each that have the same values. And this is a useful concept because in socionics, the element values are very important and are sort of the unique part of the system. So I'm just going to briefly run through what these quadras are, and then I'm going to sort of dig into which elements are and aren't valued in those quadras and sort of paint a picture from that. And hopefully there's something recognizable in all of that. So there's four quadras. One, the alpha quadra. So that's type ILE, intuitive logical extrovert. SEI, sensory ethical introvert. ESE, ethical sensory extrovert. And LII, logical intuitive introvert. The beta quadra is EIE, ethical intuitive extrovert. LSI, logical sensory introvert. SLE, sensory logical extrovert. And IEI, intuitive ethical introvert. The gamma quadra is type SEE, sensory ethical extrovert. ILI, intuitive logical introvert. LIE, logical intuitive extrovert. And ESI, ethical sensory introvert. The delta quadra is type LSE, logical sensory extrovert. EII, ethical intuitive introvert. I sit in, which is why I have this memorized off the top of my head, like which order I should go in through these types. Sort of unfair, that my own type, ILE, is first, but I guess Socionics' creator, she was that type, and we've been privileged ever since, perhaps. So what is it that unites these types exactly? These are some types that are very different from each other. And I guess we just sort of have to dig into it. So let's start with this alpha quadra, ILE, SEI, ESE, and LII. So these are types that share sort of four values in common and four values not in common. They all value NE, SI, FE, and TI, and do not value TE, FI, SE, or NI. And if you expand to the 16 elements, you can sort of think of four of them as being fully valued, four of them as being fully unvalued, and 8 of them sort of being different shades of semi-valued. But I'm not going to go there in this video. So I guess the way that I like to conceptualize everyone having these shared values is to think of the elements in pairs of one perception and one judgment. And then it becomes meaningful to think about what it means to value that pair or not value that pair as a group. So let's start with the pairs that are valued. So there'd be 4 such pairs. There would be sort of NE plus FE, NE plus TI, SI plus FE, and SI plus TI. So we can think of them one at a time. So NE plus FE, let's call that alpha extroversion. So this is a pair of elements that you might associate with the ILE having the NE lead and FE mobilizing, or with the ESE having FE lead and NE mobilizing. They're sort of used in tandem and loudly. So what does it mean to use these together? Well, so NE, is about this novelty, this possibility, this innovation, this sort of just jumping into new intellectual approaches, new ways of being. Whereas FE, is this live emotional energy, the ability to read that energy, the sort of need, the compulsion to get it out. So when you combine these two together, I guess you get a sort of like friendly, hyperactive frenzy, that you have this intellectual thrill of like, oh, someone new, something new, some new concept, like that's very interesting. Let me explore it. Let's stay open minded. Combined with this emotionality, like, wow, I'm excited. This is causing a reaction in me. I need to get out that reaction. I'm going to share this with you. Are you going to be excited about this also? So all four of the alpha types value this, and you can sort of see the two extroverts, ILE and ESE, lead in this area. Uh, the ILE really embodying the fiery, all-encompassing curiosity about everything. The ESE embodying more the the sort of wide enthusiasm, the sort of bringing things to life, making people be more interested, more excited. And for the SEI and the LII, the alpha introverts, it's a little bit less characteristic, but it's still something that's viewed positively. Um, you know that even though there's only, I guess, one of the two functions that's in a prominent place for each of those types. So, for instance, for the SEI, the NE is weak, but the FE is stronger. And it's sort of this nice window into the use of NE. Like everyone's excited about this stuff. It seems like this is interesting, everyone in the room. Like maybe I can leave my natural skepticism for a moment and also be interested into this. And it's this nice, pleasing interaction. And it's sort of like that for the LII too, but in reverse. Like their conceptual openness, their learning, their mental switching. That's sort of on in a nice place as their creative function. But the FE, the emotionality, is sort of buried deep down as a suggestive function. But this NE plus FE, it's this nice entryway into this happy, open, curious space. It's like, well, there's all this good energy around surrounding this idea. That's good. Uh, maybe I can participate more in what people are doing. Maybe I can start to show a little life. So that's good for them too. So that's one pair out of the four alpha pairs, this NE plus FE. The second one, and I guess this is more classically discussed when people talk about quadras, think about NE plus TI, extroverted intuition, introverted logic. And this forms the ego block of both ILE and LII. So you really have those two types taking the lead in that area, the other two types being more receptive of it. And that's sort of this interplay between intellectual exploration and intellectual clarity. It's sort of like I want to look at all the phenomenon out there in the world, and I want to form them together into a system, into something tight. So there's sort of this this open this openness, this curiosity, this non-judgmental part of it, and then there's this other side that's very judgmental. That's like this is true, that is false, this structure fits, that structure doesn't fit. This is a good principle, that is a bad principle. And in that sense, there's this moral aspect because TI is moral. It's morality that you can write down on paper, that you can express precisely. Uh, and you will see both of these in both ILE and LII. With ILE, uh, that relentless curiosity will come first. They'll sort of explore in lands that they don't quite have a handle on just because it's interesting. They're maybe more likely to structure something when they feel stuck, when they feel like someone's watching. Whereas the LII, that clarity, that precision, that rightness, that explicitness, it comes first. They have this much more open, more intuitive side to them, where they're like, let's explore this phenomenon. Are these rules really what's out there in conceptual space? But in the end, they're uncomfortable until they can really clarify it, because that logic is at the core of their personality. So as I said, for the alpha SFs, ESE, and SEI, This element pair is farther from the core of their personality. It forms suggestive and mobilizing for them in various orders. For SEI, TI is mobilizing. So they have this side of them that's more systematic. That's more like this is a principle I live by. This is a building block of my worldview. The NE part is the hardest part. Really being able to leave their habitual patterns of thought, their habitual patterns of being, and be like, let's think about it this other way. But because it is a suggestive function, when it's around, they can be drawn into it. And it's the opposite for the ESE. The sort of raw curiosity part of it uh, is a side of them that they like to explore, but having it really down precisely is uncharacteristic of them. They are much more people who are spontaneous, who follow the energy, who orient themselves based on what they feel, what they notice. But they really do want this sense that everything is fully known, is fully structured, and that's something that they can be drawn into in these sort of alpha settings. So that's that second element pair. The third one, is sort of the same thing in reverse, Fe plus Si. So the question is, what does that look like in the alpha setting? So here you have the alpha SFs, ESE and SEI, both having that functional pair in their ego block. So for the ESE, Fe is their existence. Si is more of a tool, so that you would really associate them with this liveliness, this vibrancy, this emotionality, this ability to lift people's spirits, get them to participate. Whereas for SEI, you would more associate them with this more grounded SI side, that they're much more about connecting to their surroundings, being comfortable, sort of noticing signs of connection to surroundings or lack thereof in others. But when you combine them as a pair, it's sort of having these emotional responses to what's going on in embodied reality. Like you sort of get these emotional signals from people's body language, from people's moods, and that's the domain that gets acted on. Like what is the real emotional energy? What are the things that are really coursing through people's bodies, like in this interaction? And for the alpha NTs, ILE and LII, this is not their area of specialization, but it is what they are seeking. And similarly, they will each have one of these two elements that's their mobilizing functions. They do it somewhat, and one that's their suggestive function. That's sort of uncharacteristic and less drawn out. So for ILE, they do have this more emotional, more excitable, almost performer-like side. That's like, I'm going to express things. I'm going to get things out. That can turn on pretty easily with prompting. But then the SI, this pleasant connection to surroundings, this listening to physical signals, this sense of equilibrium. It's just not really there. That they tend to wander in their heads, want to try out different things, want to optimize things, and but when prompted to stick around and stay a while and just be in these patterns of pleasing routine, they can be drawn into that. And for the LII, it's the opposite. They are better at sort of, for lack of a better phrase, taking care of themselves. They will often have these habits and routines. I guess the SIT side is a bit stronger for them. That their sense of detail, they'll still need to push to be really connected to their environment. rather than in their heads, you know, thinking about their sense of truth and their favorite concepts. Uh, but it is there, whereas the FE side is less there. They tend to be very emotionally dry without a prompt. Uh, can sometimes be sort of depressive, temperamentally, like, this world is not going to be perfectly fair. Like, everyone just acts in their self-interest. I'm unhappy, and sometimes they just need to forget about all that for a little bit and be in this nice, bright, uncomplicated emotional atmosphere. And that's what the ESEs, and to a lesser extent the SEIs, are good at. So that's that third pair. The fourth pair that's valued, think of that as sort of this sense of stability and rootedness, because SI is sort of this grounded sense of place, built into one's body. It's like there there are things I'm used to. I've internalized those. Uh, I don't want to just like go off and do something else instead, because it's all been built in. Like, I know what I want in these areas. And what the TI adds to that is a more explicit order. This sense of, yes, I do this thing every Saturday. Yes, like, uh, this is when I might eat dinner. Uh, when combined with SI, as opposed to with intuition, it's really like puts these patterns into life. These conscious patterns. That's like, yes, like, I said I would do this. Let's do this. These are the people I tend to see. Let's see these people. Uh, and in that sense, it's a sort of loyalty, not in the FI sense of really like putting your heart into it, but just like, yes, like, I'm committed to this person, this institution, this scene. So that TI plus SI groundedness is associated with alpha. LIIs will lead on the TI aspect of it. They're usually very reliable people that you can count on. If they promise something, they will generally do it, because their minds aren't complicated by some of the information elements more foreign to them. They're not basing things off of, SEF, like, what do I want? They're not basing it off of FE, like, what is this energy telling me right now? They will do things that they don't feel like, because it's like, I said I would be there at 8 p.m. on Saturday. I'm going to be there at 8 p.m. on Saturday, TI and SI, but with the TI first. The SEI sort of also provides this, but in a more SI first way, so that it gets the regularity, the routine, the stability. It gets sort of encoded into their actual embodied selves first, and later it becomes more of a rule. But the rule does also matter, because alphas all value TI. And for the alpha extroverts, it's a bit more subdued, because ESEs have the suggestive TI, ILEs have the suggestive SI. But it is still there. It's viewed as this good thing to be like, yes, everyone's reliable, everyone's operating in this smaller radius. I know I have these things, these comforts, these people that I can count on. It's not all so chaotic. It's not all so situational. It's not all so reevaluated. So that's Alpha Quadra. Hopefully that paints a picture of what it's, why these types are grouped together, especially since you can group them, NT and SF, or extrovert and introvert, and what it might be like to have a group where these types of people and their values predominate. So I'll also discuss the pairs that are not valued. So that would be the pairs that are valued over in gamma. That'll be another video. Um, and so you'll see like what things aren't core parts of like the ideal alpha quadra life. So let's start with the extroverted pair. So that would be SE plus TE. Those aren't valued. But what's it like for SE and TE to work together? That's sort of this sense of forward action and drive combined with this more mental sense of goals, of accomplishment, of evidence. So it's really just this straight up productivity. Like there are some tasks to do. Let's do the tasks. It's this impetus to action and this impetus to do the things. Uh, for alphas, it's not that they're unproductive people, uh, especially the extroverts. ILEs have four-dimensional TE, ESEs have four-dimensional SE, and the other one's two-dimensional. So that combination is active. But I think what all the alphas share is this sense that like, okay, like maybe my life shouldn't be focused around just like knocking out goals, being more and more productive, building an empire, optimizing process, things like that. That's work, and work has a place, but eventually you want balance, you want fun, you want exploration. Like, where are all these things when your nose is to the grindstone? So that's one pair. Another pair, TE plus NI, gamma NTs. And that's really about thinking about the long term, making decisions that are beneficial in the long term. And this is something where the alpha NTs have an advantage over the SFs because for both the NTs, this is the id block. These are 3 and 4 dimensional elements, but but unvalued. So it's sort of like, yes, I could think about the way things are going. I could think about what decisions I need to make. I could think about gathering the right data. But really, what I'm more interested in is not this dynamic intellectual logic process, but a more static one. This TI plus NE. That's like I want really a solid system that is big enough and good enough to encompass what I'm up to. Uh, to cover all of the cases, and that systems thinking predominates over this uh, future strategy thinking. Uh, and for ESE and SEI, it's more straightforward. It's just sort of foreign to their way of being. Their basic way of being is to enjoy their life, to not overcomplicate things, to be in the moment. This really competes for space in the psyche with not being in the moment, with making uh, decisions aimed at the future, with orienting toward the future and the past and what you want later. So you can really see the contrast there, TE and NI compared with alpha SFs. Similarly, this gamma SF pair, SE and FI. Uh, so what's SEN plus FI? This is sort of this side of acting based on what I want, acting out my preferences in the world, knowing which people I prefer, and acting to keep those people closer and other people further away. That's the more FI oriented version of that pair. So this is something that the alpha SFs, the ESE and SEI, can do. ESE especially can do that SE part. That's their demonstrative function. They can be a force to be reckoned with. They can pull people closer. They can drag people further. They can get what they want. And SEIs, similarly, the FI is very strong. They're usually very loyal. They usually know who they trust and not. They're able to take action to get that as it should be. But for neither of those types is it part of their way of being. Their natural way of being is more like what is the energy you're supplying? Are you pleasant to be around? How do I feel physically around you? And in that sense, they can do things that gamma SFs would find strange, both in terms of being annoyed at people who are closer, or at letting people back in who did something bad, because it really seems like, oh well, now they're nice again, they're acting nice, whatever, it's in the past. um Whereas, alpha NTs for this pair, it's this is the super ego block. These are the things that are hard. Uh, and what the alpha NTs are associated with is this sort of universal morality. All men are created equal. Excuse me. All people are created equal. Like uh, this sense that, like, if I feel that something should be true, well, why do I feel like that should be true? How does that apply in all cases? Like, am I acting differently toward this person than I am toward that person? Well, that's not okay. Should I be doing that? What is the framework for which I should treat people, interact with people, be a person? And this is gamma SFs, just like, if I like this person and not that person, then I should take action to be close to this person and less close to that person. If someone did something worthy of reward or punishment, by the way I see it, by all means, like, give people treats, give people, uh, slaps, which isn't, they're often very nice people, but it's just that's a more naturally moral thing for them to do in their morality. Uh, it's like, if I prefer this, if I want this, if I like this, like, that's just being a person. Like, go ahead and act on that. What are you waiting for? And the alpha NTs, they wait and they wait, because it's like they're not they're not close to that process of really preferring people and acting on the preference. They're involved in other things, which sometimes can be helpful for humanity, but often are just sort of strange. Like, why do you care about those people? Like, they're far away. And the fourth pair of gamma elements that uh, alphas therefore do not value is the gamma introversions. That's Fi plus Ni. And I guess, combining this Fi sense of, like, I know that I like this and don't like that, that I am this and am not that, that I prefer this over that. Combining that with the Ni sense of, make sure you get what's going on here, make sure you make uh, prudent decisions that you see under the surface. Combine them together, you sort of get this sense of personal and relational caution. Like, be careful who you trust. Make sure that people have earned your trust. But then once they have earned your trust, you remember that they're at that point in the narrative, that they're over that bar. Keep them in. Uh, so as usual, for the alpha introverts, this is a little bit easier. SEIs have good about things in the world, uh, though they do override it. LIIs do have this universal, like, why shouldn't I talk to this person side to them, that, like, an ILI wouldn't have. Whereas SEIs do have this, maybe I should explore this energy farther, even though I may have heard X and Y about this person. I'm going to trust what I'm seeing in front of me. In a way that would probably be swapped with an ESI. But the alpha extroverts, they struggle with this more. Uh, and the ILEs especially struggling with the FI, like, where am I at with these people? Like, do I have this emotional context easily accessible and correct? Whereas for the ESEs, the NI part is the harder part. Like, have I really thought through, where this is going to go, where this is going to end, like what happens if I let this person in. So combined, they have trouble with this pair, uh, with really like keeping people at a bit of a distance, or remembering not to distance people to really uh, to just be careful in these matters. You know, just alpha extroverts often just coming off as naive optimists. Maybe they're screwed over and then they're screwed over again, and maybe they still didn't learn their lesson. Uh, Whereas, in ESI or an ILI, maybe someone can like moderately betray them once, and they could be like, I've resolved to never trust a single person ever again because I tried that once and look where it got me. Uh, you know, and maybe that's an overly harsh view of them from my own alpha viewpoint, but you know, uh, there is something to it, to not just letting people in by default, to not just believing everything will work out for the best, because there is this evil, sinful, deceitful side of all people, including the alpha extroverts themselves. Wow, so I thought I might have gotten to talk about all four quadras in this video, but I'm like 32 minutes in and I've just gotten to the end of alpha, so I think I'll end it there. Have a good day.